All right, so we say all praises to the Most High Yah, creator of heaven and earth, by his word, by his command, to the one he sent for the nation of Israel, our Redeemer, our King Hamashiach, hallelujah. I am Ezra, and this is part 2 of Sunrise to Sunset, False. All right, so we're going to get to the Exodus 16. But before, we want to address some scriptures and some thoughts that were given to us as it deals with the morning, starting the day. So we want to hit those scriptures to see. And another question was about creation and as it deals with darkness. It was said to me that I see that light actually came first because it came to kind of divide darkness. So we see light coming first. All right, so we're going to deal with that, and then we're going to go straight over to Exodus 16, and from there we'll keep moving. All right, Genesis 1. After this, we should have a great understanding of creation to a certain extent, and what's going on in context with creation. All right, so 1:1 says, in the beginning, Yah created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of Yah moved upon the face of the water. So I think this is the part being referred to. And so the one thing we got to realize is that if darkness is not created, then darkness is definitely not a part of heaven and earth. If darkness is a part of heaven and earth, then Yah created it because he created the heaven and the earth. So the first verse kind of really just brings that darkness wasn't created to a nothing now, because the first verse pretty much says it. Berashit bara Elohim et ha-shamayim wa et ha-aretz. In beginning created Elohim. What did he create? What did he create? The heavens and the earth, right? So that kind of, you really can't say that darkness was not created, because when you get to the second verse, this means that the earth was without form and void, meaning it was empty. It wasn't bringing forth anything. You understand? And now when you get here and say, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, it speaks of the waters. So you're not talking about darkness as we see it today here on earth. We're not talking about it gets dark and then we're just walking around on dry land. No, the earth had not yet put forth anything. It was empty. You understand? So it was, for lack of better words, it was almost in a state of, I don't want to say destruction, but it was just in a state where it could not produce. Okay? So, and the Spirit of Yah moved upon the face of the waters. So you're talking about emptiness. The heavens and the earth were created, but it was full of water. It was, and that's all it was. It wasn't able to produce anything. And darkness was upon the face of the deep. All right, so let's get an understanding of why this speaks like this. Let's go to Genesis, the 8th chapter. All right, and then we're moving. All right, so 8:2 says, the fountains also of the deep and the windows of heaven were stopped, and the rain from heaven was restrained. So here you go again. And the Most High destroying the earth. Here is water again covering it. All right. So we see in the beginning, darkness was upon the face of the deep. All right. And, it was without form and void. It was empty. So you see in Genesis what happens when he goes to destroy everything, water covers everything. Okay? So now you see again, is not able to produce, is not able to bring forth anything. Okay? So now we're understanding a little better how Genesis is kind of working. All right, let's go back. And Yah said, let there be light, and there was light. So we already established that darkness is a part of creation because he created the heaven and the earth, right? Just because it was empty does not mean it was not created. Okay? And he said, let there be light. Now let's get some understanding. Let's go to the 6th verse. And Yah said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. All right. Let's grab the 9th verse, because this is where you see. And Yah said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. And he called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called he seas. And he saw that it was what? Tob. And now look, now that you see the waters are separated, and you see dry land, what you have? He said, let the earth bring forth grass. Now you're not void and without form anymore. Look, the herb yielding seed, the fruit tree. Look at how you're bringing forth now. Look at the 12th verse. And the earth brought forth grass, and the herb yielding seed. All right. Now look, you even get down here and you wonder why the sun and the stars and the moon isn't created until a little later. Because now you see everything coming into play. You see everything falling into play. All before it was empty. You know, it was full of water. Now take note of how Genesis, the 8th chapter, speaks. You know, again, water destroyed everything. But then look at the covenant. While the earth remaineth, seed time and harvest and cold and heat and summer and winter and day and night shall not cease. You understand? So the earth is always going to be what? Bringing forth. It'll bring forth your changes of season. It's going to bring forth your light and your darkness. It's going to bring forth hot and cold. All right. So we're seeing that Genesis 1:1, when a lot of people look at darkness, they're thinking it's such a bad thing, but not understanding what Genesis 1 and 2 is actually talking about. All right. So that should clear up a whole lot. Let's go to Isaiah 45:7. That should clear up a whole lot, because we got to understand that what we thought darkness was and what it was representing in Genesis 1 really wasn't, that wasn't the case. 45:7 says, I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, Yah, do all these things. You understand? So I guess a negative connotation is brought to darkness in Genesis 1 in order to push the agenda that light came first. That's not true, as we can see already. All right. So let's move. Scripture was given to me, Leviticus 7:15, said that this undoubtedly proved morning comes first. All right, so let's read it. And the flesh of the sacrifice of his peace offerings for thanksgiving shall be eaten the same day that it was offered. He shall not leave any of it until the morning. All right, so here, now I don't understand how this represents morning, beginning of the day. I have no idea where and how someone came up with that. So I'm just going to assume it's because of he shall not leave it until morning. because I really don't see anywhere how that right there represents morning being the beginning of the day. All right, so, and the flesh of the sacrifice of his peace offerings for Thanksgiving shall be eaten the same day that is offered. Okay, even in English, you see your semicolons here. All right, so you see you have two independent clauses, or however we say that with a semicolon. But recognize this kind of stuff. It has a meaning. Okay. He shall not leave any of it until the morning. I don't know. I mean, we'll go to Exodus 12 and bring clarity to how it works, but it says that same day that it is offered, that's when it should be eaten. And then here, all right, let's look here. Lo Yaniak. All right. So this is he feel right here. Third person masculine singular. This is a he feel form of he shall not leave. So that means he shall not cause it to be left. All right. So how would you do that? By just leaving it there and doing nothing with it. I don't know how that deals with anything to tell you that the morning is the start of the day. He's just giving you instructions. You should not leave it there or leave it in its place or cause it to be left there. Any of it as far as boker, morning, ad boker. So let's go to Exodus 12 to kind of bring light to it. Exodus 12 and 6 says, and ye shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month, and the whole assembly of the congregation shall kill it. Let's bring this out because this is going to be important. In between the two evenings, you have Bain here, which is between, and Ha'arbayim, right? The two evenings, and you see the Hidik and the Yod and the final mem. This is dual, so it's rendered between the two evenings. That's going to be key in a little bit. All right, so back to that 7 and 15. Now watch this, 12 and 8. And they shall eat the flesh in that night, roast with fire and unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. Now we're into Feast of Unleavened Bread in that night, which is the 15th. Because we know that by this one, in the first month, on the 14th day of the month at even, you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at even, 7 days. So we know that's the 15th, that night that we're eating it. Now watch 12. And ye shall let nothing of it remain until the morning. So I'm not sure how Leviticus 7 and 15 morning becomes, the start of the day. I don't know how they put that together. Let's say in Leviticus 7 you eat. It doesn't matter when you eat or you make that sacrifice in Leviticus 7 and 15. I don't think the instructions are gonna change. You still are not going to be able to cause what is left to stay there until the morning. It's just the instructions being given. So again, I don't know how that works, but here you see in Exodus 12 similar instructions. Even though it was killed on the 14th day, and that night, which is the 15th, as we went through in the last video, he says, ye shall not let any of it remain until the morning. That which remaineth of it till the morning ye shall burn with fire. All right, so another scripture was Numbers 28 and 4. All right, Numbers 28 and 4 says, the one lamb shall thou offer in the morning, and the other lamb shall thou offer at even. And then the 8th verse, it says, and the other lamb shall thou offer at even, as the meat offering of the morning, and as the drink offering thereof, thou shalt offer it a sacrifice made by fire of sweet savor. All right, so again, it was told that this right here proves morning starts the day and it goes to evening. All right, that does not. That's why we brought out in about Passover right here, Bain Ha'arbayim, between the two evenings. Okay, when is between the two evenings? All right, let's explain between the two evenings. All right, so you have your morning here, but before morning you have evening, right? And then before you get to the next evening that brings in the next day, that is between the two evenings. All right, let me say that again. Before morning, before this morning gets here, you have evening. You have the evening to the morning. And then morning could take you to another evening, which brings in another day. Before that day gets there, that's between the two evenings. All right, that is the understanding of Bain Ha'arbayim, between the two evenings. That means in that day, it shall not go beyond that day. You have to be in between the two evenings. All right. Now, some will say in between the two evenings is when the evening first comes in to midnight. No, this scripture right here proves that wrong. You see between the two evenings coming after morning. So that means that evening is going to be what? Before you come into the next day. That right there pretty much explains everything that we have been talking about. If someone would really be honest and look at it the way it's supposed to be. So that's what it means. That's why it reads in between the two evenings. So Genesis 1 and 5, evening and the morning were the first day. All right, when you come around to the other evening, once you get there, that's the second day. So in between the two evenings is before the next day comes in. It's in between the evening that brings the day in and before you get to the second evening that starts a new day. That's why 28 and 8, it begins to read and say, and the other lamb shall thou offer when shall? Bain Ha'arbayim, again. So again, family, we're explaining and showing to you that the scriptures that have been set at the top of the list for morning to evening, they don't mean that. All right. All right. So I don't think it was anything else that I can remember. Let's go to Exodus 16. All right. So Exodus 16. And when we get to verse 23 is where it goes. And he saith unto them, this is that which Yah have said. Tomorrow is the rest, or in time to come is the rest of the holy Sabbath unto Yah. Bake that which you will bake, and seethe that ye will seethe. And that which remaineth over lay up for you to be kept until morning. All right. And then they get to the 25th verse and say, and Moses said, eat that today, for today is a Sabbath unto Yah. Today you shall not find it in the field. All right. So this is the Sabbath first being introduced to the nation of Israel. Let's get that understanding. And okay, because of the scriptures we just read, some would interpret and say, see, it's only between the day. Regardless of how many scriptures you have been through, showing them that evening and morning from Genesis all the way to the rest, it doesn't matter how many scriptures you can show to prove, look, brothers and sisters, that is not how you interpret it. They will still come to the scripture and say the same exact thing. I don't get it. All right, so let's back up to Exodus 16:5. And it shall come to pass that on the 6th day they shall prepare that which they bring in, right? And it shall be twice as much as they gather daily. Right? And Moses and Aaron said unto the children of Israel, at even, then ye shall know Yah have brought you out from the land of Egypt. Now watch this. And in the morning. Now why evening is being left off when you get to the bottom? I have no idea, family. Even just gets left off and everybody just forgets. All right, so let's go. And in the morning, then you shall see the glory of Yah, for he heareth your murmurings against Yah. All right, 8th verse. And Moses said, this shall be, or this will happen, when Yah shall give you in the evening flesh to eat. All right. And in the morning, bread to the full. You see that? And it shall come to pass, 5th verse, that on the 6th day, you seeing the lineup of how each day is rendered. Evening, morning, evening, morning. All right, let's keep going. Let's get the 11th verse. And Yah spake unto Moses, saying, I have heard the murmurings of the children of Israel. Speak unto them, saying, at even. What is that? You see that? Bain. Again. Ha'ar ba'yim. In between the two evenings. Now, when is this evening? Now we saw in Numbers 28:4 between the two evenings, it fell behind the morning before the next evening came in. Now let's see when this evening falls. And it came to pass that at even the quails came up and covered the camp. And in the morning, so you see that this right here starts just like Genesis 1:5. Evening and morning were the first day. Right? And it came to pass that at even the quails came up, covered the camp. And in the morning, the dew lay about the host. So you see here that this changes the narrative a whole lot. But what happens is we just forget about even and morning. By the time we get to the bottom and we say today, we're just thinking that it left off the evening. You know, they got the quails in the evening. That means on the 6th day, evening that brings it in, right? Here's your quails. And in the morning, here's what? Here's the dew, or here's the manna. Here's your bread. Now we know that that evening came before morning because not only because it just said it, but it's a certain verse that says right here, 20. Let's go 19. And Moses said, let no man leave of it till the morning. Notwithstanding, they did not hearken unto Moses, but some of them left of it till morning, and it bred worms and stank. And watch this. 21 says, and they gathered it every morning, every man according to his eating. And when the sun waxed hot, it melted. So we know that evening was way before morning. And it came to pass that on the 6th day. Now, why would the 6th day be any different? Why would evening and morning be any different? Right? In the morning, they gathered bread. We understand that. But why would evening and morning be any different? All right. They gathered twice as much bread, 2 omers for one man, and all the rulers of the congregation came and told Moses. Watch this. And he said unto them, this is that which Yah said, tomorrow is the rest of the holy Sabbath unto Yah. Bake that which you will bake. Question. What were they baking? What were they going to bake? bread. They were gathering the bread, right? Okay. And seethe that ye will seethe. What were they going to boil? Yep. You said it. Quail. You see that? 23rd verse puts it right back in there. Quail that came when? That means the evening, which brought in the 6th day. And then you had the morning with them gathering double bread until the next morning. Tomorrow is the rest of the holy Sabbath unto Yah. Bake that which ye will bake, and seethe that ye will seethe, and that which remaineth over lay up for you to be kept until morning. Why lay it up? Do we not have a whole evening that we could prepare? Do we not have all night to get this done? All right. Come on, Israel. By now, we have to be able to see. All right, so watch this. And they laid it up till the morning, as Moses bade, and it did not stink, neither was there any worm therein. Moses said, eat that today, for today is a Sabbath unto Yah. Today ye shall not find it where? In the field. 26. 6 days you shall gather it. But on the 7th day, which is the Sabbath, in it there shall be none. All right. So why the verses up here, we get down to the bottom and leave everything off? I don't know. But as you can see in most of the scriptures that we've went to, you see it being explained at the top, and then coming down to the bottom, you see it being spoken of. You'll see, like we talked about Leviticus 23. You'll see he says the 10th day, and then you see he comes down and say the 9th day at evening. He explains it. You go to the scriptures and you see this type of sequence all the time. Why between the evening is being left off from verse 12? Bain Ha'arbaim, I don't know. But if you're trying to push your own agenda, of course you will leave this out. Why is even and morning being left out as it talks about the sequence of the days? I don't know. But if you're trying to push your own agenda, I'm sure you would leave it out. Once you get to the 23rd verse, why would they talk about bake and forget that it says seethe or boil also? I'm not sure. But if you were pushing your own agenda, or if there was some type of pride of being incorrect, then of course, this is what you would say. Okay, again, Israel, if there is a greater understanding, then deal with the scriptures that have been given from part 1 all the way up until now. And let's talk about it. There is no pride of being incorrect over here. Okay, Israel? But remember, deal with all the scriptures. I've learned that people pull one point and try to make one point show that everything is wrong. They don't even go through the whole sequence of all the scriptures. They try to get one point, and then some people try to agree with others when they don't even know what they're talking about, just because it helps their point. And y'all, that's wickedness. All of that. But again, Israel is afraid to talk about the things that makes them very uncomfortable. All right. Again, any questions, we will leave our information. So if anybody wants to go into the Hebrew and be more detailed with it, we will be available to do that. Now let's look at this, Nehemiah 13, because we know we heard a lot of stuff from here. All right, so Nehemiah 13 and 19, where it says, and it came to pass that when the gates of Jerusalem began to be dark before the Sabbath. Now we've heard that people say, well, this is the dark period, and then the Sabbath came in the morning. All right, it says, I commanded that the gates should be shut and charged that they should not be opened till after the Sabbath. And some of my servants set I at the gates, that there should be no burden, that there should no burden be brought in on the Sabbath day. All right. So, well, let's just kind of keep reading now. So the merchants and the sellers of all kind of ware lodged without Jerusalem once or twice. Then I testified against them, said unto them, why lodge ye about the wall? Now, why did they lodge about the wall? Because they closed the gates before it was dark on the Sabbath. All right, so they lodge about the wall. Then he says, if you do so again, I will lay hands on you. From that time forth came they no more on the Sabbath. So they were outside the gates about the wall because it was closed. And then it says they came no more on the Sabbath. Well, when were they there? When the gates closed, that's dark. You understand? Just reading it, you already see it's called Sabbath. But anyways, let's look at this. And it came to pass that when the gates of Jerusalem began to be dark, it was not dark yet, but it was growing to become period of darkness. And that period is before it got there is before the Sabbath, Israel. Okay. And I commanded that the gate should be shut before the Sabbath. Okay. And I charged that they should not be open till after the Sabbath. And some of my servants I set at the gates, that there should be no burden, that there should no burden be brought in on the Sabbath day. Okay. So again, it's just one of those scriptures that kind of speaks for itself. But when you have people bringing in all different types of interpretations just to, prove a certain point, then it becomes disastrous. And then you get different kinds of things set there. So understand that. Now, if we back up, we see the 15th verse. In those days saw I in Judah some treading wine press on the Sabbath, bringing in sheaves, lading asses, also wine, grapes, and figs, and all manner of burdens, which they brought into Jerusalem on the Sabbath day. I testified against them in the day wherein they sold victuals. There dwelt men of Tyre also therein, which brought fish and all manner of ware, and sold on the Sabbath unto the children of Judah and in Jerusalem. Then I contended with the nobles of Judah, said unto them, what evil is this that ye do, and profane the Sabbath day? All right. So we see that during the light part of the Sabbath, they were throughout the city selling things to our people. Our people are indulging and profaning the Sabbath by buying on the Sabbath. All right. So now we see something a little different, because all before it was what? Cease from work. Okay. Cease from your work. All right. Occupation. But then you see it even deals with business. Okay. So your business is not supposed to be ran on the Sabbath neither. Everything was supposed to be shut down at the evening. All right. When work stopped, when it came to evening, remember the 6th day, he created this stuff, and on the 7th day, he ceased. So when the work stops, it wasn't supposed to start back until the evening of the next Sabbath, or at the end of the Sabbath. This is where you could start back operating as you please and as you wanted to. All right. So how was they able to command someone to be at the gates during the period of the Sabbath? All right. Because we were told to shamor, watch, keep, protect the Sabbath day. It was given to us. And we understand that they were familiar with what? The book of Moses. Deuteronomy 5:12. It says, keep the Sabbath day to sanctify it, as Yah thy sovereign have commanded thee. All right. So you see, it says here, shamor et Yom HaShabbat. All right. Shamor, or protect, keep, watchmen. All right. And this is infinitive. As you can see here, absolute. Right. Infinitive absolute is what you're looking at right here. So that means it put emphasis on the action. Right. It puts emphasis. Shamor. So he gave us the Sabbath, and we were supposed to shamor, protect, keep it. That means if anyone else wants to come in and corrupt it, this is a command for the nation of Israel, that period in time, to shamor. You understand? We are supposed to keep it. If someone gave you something and said, watch this for me, someone else came and said, man, can I use it? You would say, no, I have to shamor. I have to keep this from anybody coming in and polluting it or doing anything outside of what the Most High told us. So that's what we're doing in these videos. We are shamor et Yom HaShabbat, from those coming in and trying to say, no, it's this time, right? No, we shamor et Yom HaShabbat. All right. And then look at this. Let's back it up. It says 6 days thou shalt labor and do all thy work. But let's back up. Keep the Sabbath day to sanctify it, to set it apart, right, from everything else. 6 days thou shalt labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of Yah thy sovereign. Now here's the kicker. You set it apart from everything else. But sunrise to sunset says you can go through all the other days and you could get all of those nights all the way up to the morning of the seventh day. All of that belongs to you. But you only give the Most High the light part of the seventh day. Now, come on, family. Just think about that for a second. The Most High is just telling you, just make holy that light part. And then when the night comes again, you do whatever you want to do then. You back on your thing. Right? Come on. I mean, just think about that for a second. You can get light and day all week long, all the way up to the point that you get to the morning of the seventh day. Now in the morning, you're going to bring about, your Sabbath. Listen, Israel, I promise you, no sunrise to sunset person can tell you when the morning starts. Should we go to scriptures showing you that you're coming in to the light of the morning? That over there in Judges, it's so many scriptures you can go to. What tell us when morning starts? Because they're not understanding that morning is a time span. So they're believing, well, you just run into this light. It's like evening. You just don't run into the darkest part of evening. But you start somewhere. tell us when morning actually starts. At the rising of the sun? So does it start at light? How safe are we with that? All right, but that's neither here nor there. I want to go back and I want to reiterate something. I want to reiterate something that I thought about as it deals with Exodus 12th chapter. Okay. We were talking about Bain Ha'arbayim. Now, I want to bring one more point out. I meant to bring out to prove that between the two evenings is the 14th evening, and then you have morning, and then you have the other evening that brings in the 15th. If you think about, for those of us that believe in, or we give honor to Hamashiach, you will see his apostles say, where do we go to kill the Passover? In the book of Mark. And then you see him coming in late evening, and you'll see that you can only kill the Passover on the 14th day. And this is Hamashiach we're talking about. And then you see those that say, well, from 3 to 5, Hamashiach was being crucified. That in itself shows you that both of those periods are between the two evenings. For those of us that believe Hamashiach, you will see the apostles say, how should we kill the Passover? And then you see in the evening they come. You can't kill the Passover till the 14th day. All right. So you have your evening, and then you have your morning, and then you have another evening. And you will see that sequence play out from that point on as it deals with Hamashiach. This again proves between the evening is the time span that I have told to you. And that's how it is supposed to be rendered as it deals with the scriptures. So I want to throw that point in there so it could kind of, if anybody didn't believe, well, now you got to go and try to make something up to make all of that fit now, because it actually fits right in with in between the two evenings. All right. So we're about 40 something minutes. So let's get something else here. And listen, we have a lot more. Again, it's a whole lot more, but we don't want to make the videos too long. But let's go to Flavius Josephus, for those of us who are familiar with him. This War of the Jews, 582, and then 12. Now you can start reading it here, but I'm going to go down to about right here. But having the advantage of the situation, and having withal erected 4 very large towers forehand, that their darts might come from higher places, one at the northeast corner of the court, one above Eustis, the third at another corner over against the lower city, and the last was erected above the top of Pastaphoria, where one of the priests stood, of course, and gave a signal. Now watch this. Gave a signal beforehand. With a trumpet at the beginning of every 7th day, in the evening twilight, as also at the evening when that day was finished, as giving notice to the people when they were to leave off work and when they were to go to work again. Just wanted to pull that point, something, a reference point of study that you could get into. But look, with a trumpet at the beginning of every 7th day, and the evening twilight, as also at the evening when that day was finished, as giving notice to the people when they were to leave off work and when they were to go to work again. All right. So just wanted to throw that point in there. We definitely still have to get over to the New Testament. But even as you can see with in between the two evenings and explaining with Hamashiach, it's going to get pretty exciting once you get over there. And even when we talk about the Greek language, you know, we even understand that the Greek day was divided into 12 hours of daylight and 12 hours of darkness, right? That was a system that the Greeks got from the Babylonians. You know, they were the ones who held the Babylonians and the Egyptians in high standard for their learning. You understand? So that system of reckoning of time, actually, you know, the Greeks got it from them. You understand? And ancient Greece is the birthplace of Western civilization. You understand? When you get over into the readings of the Greek language, or the Koine Greek, following the conquest of Alexander the Great, you know, that's the dialect that was used, Koine or common. It became the educated tongue of the whole entire Hellenistic world. You understand? And even some of the New Testament being written in it, right? This European language, all right, along with like Latin and Romance languages, you know, Sanskrit and all these other things. And then it becomes pretty interesting. So with that, we say shalom. And Israel, get back. Send what you think. Let's go through the scriptures. It was a blessing for some to send in and say, look, this scripture here definitely shows mourning. So we can look at it and we can put it up and say, well, look, this is what we're actually getting from it. All right. So we say all praises to the Most High Yah. Shalom.